We're Laura and Cindy, and you're listening to the Holistic Horsemanship and Husbandry podcast, where we talk about natural horsekeeping and deepening your connection with your horse. I'm Laura, your horse care mentor. I teach natural horse management practices after working with over 200 horses and seeing how current industry standards are compromising the health of the horse.
And I'm Cindy, your horsemanship mentor, offering a proven and unique approach to creating deep connections with your horses from 20 plus years of experience, including working with wild mustangs. If you enjoy this conversation, please leave us a 5-star review wherever you're listening to us so we can get this podcast into the ears of more passionate horse people. This episode, we have a very special horsewoman joining us today. And I would be surprised if many of you haven't already heard of her, but her name is Anna Twinney. And she has been doing amazing things in the world of horses and humans for at least 25 years here in the States. And I know she was into horses doing amazing things before she joined us in the United States. So Anna, tell us a little bit about you, and thank you for being here, first of all.
Well, good morning. Good morning to both of you. And I hope to bring a little spark to somebody's day today when they listen to this episode. And so I always think where to begin, right? Where to begin? Does it begin from childhood or when I was a law enforcement officer? Does it begin with my days at Monty Roberts at Flagazette Farms, which people love to remember and often revert back to? Or does it begin when I left there? And I guess part of it does start in California. And that's kind of a commonality, which is gorgeous to say. A lot of my heart remains in California on so many fronts and so many levels. And to be introduced to horse whispering is a huge deal. In order to introduce myself, maybe I need to create a little bit of this timeline to state in 1997, it was a huge movement for people to move into natural horsemanship. And there was a leap that everybody made from traditional horsemanship into natural horsemanship. And while a timeline is one of those things that it could be seen as huge or little, and it's been described to me, if we look at where we are today in our age and how long we have left, if you start from that point to this infinity kind of thing, there's so much time to fill in and there's so much to be done. And holding that hope in our hearts is one of the biggest things for me. So therefore, if I look at 1997 to 2006, perhaps for me, that was a huge leap. And everybody came on board. Pat Pirelli, Monty Roberts, you could look at Ray Hunt, and so many big horse whisperers, John Lyons. I think people know them all. And the door opened widely. I felt that many people with that created their own blueprints, created their own marketing piece, and they got famous off of it for the fact that we got traction with Equine Affair and many other horse expos, etc. That leap was huge, and I see that as a dominance-based horsemanship, and that will always get a smile or a upheaval when people listen to that to say that's dominant. You know, Julie Goodnight, we can start throwing them all in, Clinton Anderson, and they'll go, no, they're not. Yeah, they are. It's all dominance-based. And so that was a huge leap to jump forward. And a lot of the philosophies with that meant that we would do work versus rest and discomfort versus comfort, and the horse is full. Well, this timeline is important for me because I left that behind to be with the Mustangs. I had studied horsemanship. I was a law enforcement officer up until that time. From the age of 18 to mid-30s, I had served the public and taught thousands of people. And I took a little bit of a breather. And I remember it well because you could start to look at this to say you're the top in the world, recognize us the top in the world. It's kind of something. And we've began our conversation by stating, and you can hear I'm British, and it's not a British thing to ever toot your horn. It's seen as totally wrong. And yet it's also difficult to tell somebody, who am I, without actually mentioning an accolade. And so The United States government recognized me as one of the top in the world, and that means I could stay in the country. It also means that the Queen of England endorsed Monty Roberts, and while doing that, her equerry endorsed me. So you've got some good things to stand behind you to say you're a horsewoman until you go with the Mustangs. And that's really to lay that foundation to go, yeah, the Mustangs really don't care that you're very good at what you do and thousands of people have seen you. They look at it to go, there's things missing. You know, there's things missing because they are the Wikipedia of horsemanship. And that's really when the door started open to say the floodgates are here and there's so much more to it. I do tell my students, Cindy, that at the current time, to tell you who I am is to tell you what I do, and to tell you what I do is who I am, because it all is packaged in one. And currently I teach the language of the horse. And with that, it would mean body language. And it's not secluded to that. It would be to understand herd dynamics, look at their body language, read and be a specialist in our own body language, understand the dynamics of energy and energy healing, and look at the telepathic component. So if we really break that down, we're just focusing on 3 languages at the moment, and that would be energy, telepathy, and body language. It's what I do. I don't think it's limited to that. I think the horses see auras and energy. I think they feel vibration in the ground. There's much we haven't explored, and perhaps it would be too challenging to tell people how to say, could you feel that vibration like an elephant could feel their loved ones within certain miles? I'm under no doubt that horses can do the same, but for us to learn that would be a big ask. So therefore, if we focus in on these 3 things, that's become my love. And it's about 30 years of watching the wild horses, traveling the world, to be the first individual that went to China to teach the American Quarter Horse Association and the Chinese endurance team about natural horsemanship, to look at the fact that I brought Reiki out into the open in 2005, Reiki for horses, and to bring the 2 things together, the horse's voice and the Reiki, to say we're not looking at doing it at them, but instead with them. And that would mean giving them the voice and the choice. If I only had one word to tell you who I am, it'd be I'm a translator for the animals, a translator for the horses, and to ensure that people understand there's no such thing as a truly bad horse. We might have heard those quotes. They're misunderstood, they're in pain, they've been mistrained. They don't enter this world dangerous. They don't enter the world waking up to hurt anybody, but they're misunderstood and they've got big personalities. So therefore, having somebody to be able to walk in and say, I do speak their language, and yes, they have a language, and this language is predominantly silent, and it consists of these areas that we can focus in on, that would be who I am. I could take a breather there, Cindy, or I could change this whole introduction and say I'm a truth seeker. From the age that I remember, I've been looking for the truth.
There is so much that you just shared there. Listening to you and I do a lot of the same things. I love all of the way you described it. Truth seeker, yes. Translator,
Yeah.
absolutely. Giving them a voice and a choice. And, there's no bad horses. There's just horses that have been given a lot of bad information, and go into that self-preservation. And so many people drawn to horses because they don't know how to speak the language. There's so much misinterpretation that goes on. And we all have our own viewpoints and perspectives and our own triggers from our past that we immediately want to put labels on everything we're seeing in those horses, because if we can't label it, that just makes our fear even higher and higher and higher, because we don't know what to do, right? So I love what you do and your history and your timeline. And I too fell in love with Mustangs in 2011 when I first started got introduced to them on a project, and they have been my greatest teachers. I mean, horses have been through my entire life my solid rock, but Mustangs are masterful at teaching us not only the world of horses, but the world of humans.
Right. I found having watched them so much, and I went to Australia, New Zealand, China, Mongolia, Europe, United States, from the East Coast to the West, watching wild horses and different family bands as well as different environments. And that plays a big part because there's a lot of myths out there when people say their horses are starving. The truth is, in the whole time that I've watched them, I've not found anybody starving. And it's easy to blame a group to state it's the ranchers, when in fact you start to look at it deeper and realize it could be gas and natural minerals as well as water rights and development, and there's not one cause why the Mustang is now an inconvenience for our government. And with that, I look at it to say we've always had the solution to manage them correctly. And it could have been done 30 years ago, and they knew that. They knew that the information was there, the regulations were there, the answers were there with Gus Cochran looking at all the Spanish Mustangs, and then ultimately they designed PZP. So it was always there, and it was out in the open and ignored. And so therefore, to say 30 years later we have a problem, we didn't have a problem then, we didn't have a problem now. The problem really was only that nobody was listening. And the truth is, then they don't want them. They wanted to eradicate them just like they eradicated other species. So with that, that was one piece, and it was a nice little plug I could put in there. And the other piece really is the watching Mustangs and observing them in their own habitat or working with them. You're only as good as your mind is open. I found that too. So many people will look at it to say the horses are their best teachers. And I think about it to go, well, if we pull ourselves out, there would be very little teaching going on, honestly. And if I have 7 days to gentle a Mustang and I didn't teach it, there would be no gentling going on. There would be a lot of observing and sitting. And so it requires a multitude of people, from the land's energy to the Mustang themselves, to the right person showing up, to the instructor being there. And with that being said, you only see through the lens you look at. Somebody could look at, and this actually ties really nicely into this movement in 1997, because I asked myself, and this is the truth seeker piece, I asked myself, what is it about work versus rest, of moving the horse's feet? And you hear it today. You hear it, whoever's leading has to move the other's feet. And it's not about relaxation or this or that, it's about moving feet. So you look at that to go, where's that crept in? Like, what horse were you watching when it was about moving feet? Well, if we go out into the world, they're watching the one dominant stallion, not the 9 passive leaders. And I still like to layer to go, but why did you watch that one and not the other 9? Because one, there's more subtlety to the other 9. And the second thing is, it's easier to pick that one, to go, okay, I can go and move this horse's feet, and I can train that to another person, and train the women mainly, or the men, to move feet with sticks and other means, and that they can grasp far more easily than having to study the 9 and realize that leadership comes from within. How difficult would that be to teach, to say, actually, no, you're not allowed to go into that Mustang pen and start to move them or chase them or drive them. Nothing of the sorts. In fact, we're going to share space and begin to work with our eyes and our energy and our mind. And we're going to work with the mind and not the mass. And now you are responsible for every cause and effect. How do you like me now? And so a lot of people don't like that. They want to go, I've got the stick and this is my result that I need in this period of time. And if you don't give it, I'm going to make your life very uncomfortable so that you find out that I'm the best thing that happened to you, which is then to a degree called Stockholm's syndrome, which would be that you go in and that horse begins to like their prison officer. So it comes back to all of this to say, here's your leap on your timeline to go, if you stood still in 1997, you'd still believe this is true. But if one evolved the mind to go, these guys are so spiritually evolved and it's about developing your own self, then there's a huge leap forward to make on this timeline to say the Mustangs are the best teachers. They're the rawest in their form. They are so alert, so aware, so mindful. And every breath means something. Every weight shift means something. So therefore, carrying a stick is totally inappropriate because you're yelling at them. And we come back to that to go, look inside, create a sacred pause for a minute and begin to see what's right in front of you. It's not an animal. It's not a creature per se. It is somebody that's of a higher sense and being and knowledge and wisdom, that if you can take that breath in, you wouldn't come in with alfalfa going, here, horsey, horsey. So I've seen clinicians do that. Hold the alfalfa to a Mustang and go, here, horsey, horsey. I've seen clinicians crawling on the ground, mimicking being Mustangs, crawling on all fours. And then I've seen them take tarps and shake it up and down and say, I'm going to create so much fear in this horse that they have to lean on me. And they might compare it even to spirituality and God to go, you know what, this is the same. When the turmoil's out there, one returns home to the Father. No, the Father didn't create the turmoil. You can't bring that religion in. You can't bring in the abuse and justify while you're shaking a tarp so that they get learned helplessness. And you can't bribe a Mustang because they're far smarter than that. And neither can you run them into the ground because they will run for days before they give up. And so when you watch these Mustang gentling pens, it's horrific. It's horrific to see the ignorance and the arrogance.
Yeah.
So that all brings it back to my little timeline, Cindy.
Yes. Yeah.
So, how does this kind of play in when, like, can an individual come to you for help with their horse?
Well, that's a great question because the answer would be no, not necessarily. So therefore, an individual can come. Let's look at what we can do. They can come to certain clinics.
Okay.
So if they had a Mustang ungentled, they would be more than welcome to bring them to one of the gentling Mustang clinics. We have problem solving, Mustang gentling, colt starting, and then there's Liberty. And ultimately here in North Carolina, I have a 24-day course.
Okay.
So what we can't do, unfortunately, because something always has to give, is the individual private sessions. Those had to give a long time ago. The clinics, absolutely, they can bring them in. And here's another can't. I feel like I'm doing the can't and can. They can't necessarily just talk about their horse to go, well, he bites me. He is a bucker. He does this. There's too many variables. And it's remiss of anybody to come back with, well, and these are things that have been told to me. They've said spray them with ammonia into the face when he bites, or use I know, it's a little pistol thing. And it was a very severe biter. And there's this colleagues telling me this. And then it would be use a plastic baseball bat because you can't hurt them. It would be more the sound and the shock value. And then you start to look at it online to go, people will go have tacks in between little fingers so that they get that in their face, or bite them so they know what it feels like. Punch them, use a 2x4. I mean, the list is so long with the recommendations of biting, and they're horrified when I come back with, do not school them. Do not school them for biting. Let's ask why they're biting and let's prevent the bite before it happens. So you don't need to school. You can redirect, re-guide, adjust, communicate, connect. There's all these things to look at it to go, if they're biting, they're trying to say something. Would we not want to figure out what they're trying to say. And I'm not endorsing the biting by any means, but I am saying if they've bitten you, you weren't paying attention. So therefore, no, you can't use any of that paraphernalia. You've got to look at, are you hand feeding them? Because they're going to bite. A lot of them will if you hand feed. They cooped up for 24 hours a day and they're looking for attention. They might bite. So people cannot email in with, I have a biter, what do I do? I don't know until I see it or if I communicate and connect with them. We would be amazed at the answers as to what the horses come up with as to why they do things.
Ready to unlock true freedom with your horse? Join Unbridled Freedom, our private Facebook group for women on a spiritual journey in horsemanship. We don't fix our horses, we transform ourselves. This is your space to embrace challenges, celebrate victories, and deepen your bond with your horse. If you're ready to lead with wisdom, compassion, and inner peace, join us today. Let's dance with our horses as one. The link is in the show notes below.
Yeah. So in your clinic setting, to the unaware eye, is it a lot of standing around, doing particularly nothing?
Not a bad point, Laura, because one of my statements is to say our clinics will look like paint drying.
Oh my God, I was just going to say, I say all the time, gentling a Mustang is like watching paint dry.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's really your best way, because if they're trying to jump out, run over the top of you, then we're doing it wrong. And so, yes, there's a lot of stillness is a good way. Intricacies, stillness. That would be a nice way to say it, because it's about learning the eyes. There's misconceptions with where the eyes need to go. And again, somebody's looked at any horse or a wild horse to say, we need to look at the horse's butt, because when they chase them, they look at the horse's butt or arse. And I look at that to go, no, they don't actually. They target one eye to another. And then they'll target the eyes unless they're going to bite the butt. Then they might target the butt. But horses don't look at each other's asses all day long when they're connecting. You know, they look at each other's eyes to say, do you want to come in here? Or what are you doing? It's not at the horse's butt. So I get a lot of students in the clinics that are misdirected and misinformed as to where to look. And I had one the other day, actually, that challenged, not many people challenge me. They would ask questions, but not challenge. And she kept on saying, she said, it's too much pressure that you're doing looking in a horse's eye. And I went, no, it's not. We have conversations with humans looking at each other's eyes. And it's not about predator prey. It's about one being to another being. So we can look in the eyes. We're not staring them down. You can have softness in the eye, query in the eye, challenge in the eye, everything within your eye. And so therefore it tells me a lot about that person. Would you not want to have soft eyes to check in to see how they're feeling, their emotions in the eye, their tensions in the eye? How can I use body language if I don't have their attention? Just because they're standing there doesn't mean they're comfy. They might have a glazed eye, and we need awareness in the eye, and especially somebody like you. And I also question how many schools teach the body language in vet school or farrier school to realize we need that eye. I don't want them compliant standing there going, you know what, Laura, you do what you want. I've tuned you out, but if I startle, I'm going to kick your head in because you're the thing closest to me. No, I need your permission. That means your head needs to be tilted so you can see me. Your eye needs to be awake, so I'm asking permission or I'm involving you. So therefore, yes, a lot of it's about teaching people about correct conversation, awareness, mindfulness.
Like such a validating conversation for me, because I have this lovely herd of 4 that I trim for, but also their mom can only work with them on the weekends, and she's feeling like they're not getting enough attention, so I go on Tuesdays and work with them. And one of the little minis, I just super compliant, will do anything you ask, but I'm like, she's not remaining in connection with me. So I sat on a bucket with her for a half an hour last week. And then I came home and I was talking to my husband and I was like, would you be okay paying someone money to sit on a bucket next to their horse for a half an hour? Like, I know that's what that horse needed, but I feel weird taking money for that. And he was like, well, I know you. You were either going to sit on the bucket for half an hour or you're going to refuse to work with animals. I think she's probably happy to pay you for what.
Comes with it.
Yes.
So in a lot of what we're talking about and a lot of what I've been aware of and the things I do with my clients and horses and hearing you talk about all these different scenarios. We really can do best by the horses and the people. And I don't know if I want to put one above the other, I kind of feel like it's equally important that we are educating the people about self-awareness.
Yeah.
About the horses know what you're saying, but do you know what you're saying? And so many people that I work with have no idea how important the horse's eyes are. And you're validating that. You're explaining beautifully about that. And while I was listening to you talk about it, I kind of reflected, even on us having our conversation, how many people are comfortable having that soft eye-to-eye contact during a conversation. Most eyes jet left and right and up and down, and they quite literally are going within themselves.
Yeah.
And so if we can help, I primarily work with women, if we can help them learn about their own body language and how they're showing up and what is making them uncomfortable, what's making them glaze over, what makes them defensive in their eyes without any words coming out. Can you imagine how organically things would change between them and their horses?
I can not only imagine. I
Yes.
can actually see that, to say the transformation comes in hours, which is remarkable. And I was just teaching in Arizona, actually, an intuitive riding clinic, and I still question myself. I question myself to say, am I the best one to be teaching this? There's some world-class riders out there. And I watched the transformation in a day or two to say, here's some beautiful ones. One of the ladies said, I haven't cantered before. And I wasn't even thinking about cantering. We'd done some TLC on the ground, so some, I call it TLC, trust-based leadership and compassionate communication. It's like a 9-step piece to do. And it's probably the most strategic piece I think I have to show neck yields and disengagement and so on. So softness, relaxation, connection, communication, collaboration, you name it. We'd done that. And then we were looking at the second day of a little bit of spook busting to say, let's start on the ground that you're comfy and own what you've done to take it in the saddle. Like, if you're not comfy to take it in the saddle, clearly we haven't done a decent job. So when are you ready to do that? You're comfortable to either take a jacket off, hold a water bottle, or hold a flag, whatever it is that we're seeking to do in that day. And she came up to me, she said, do you think I can canter? And I said, well, let's trot this way and see what happens. Well, he canters, and he canters back. She's so excited, and she's in tears going, you did this. And I'm thinking, actually, I don't think I did anything. Honestly, it was that piece. All I really did was to say, you can do a neck yield and a 1 rein stop if you want to, and I'm not asking you to do anything. She found her power, and she found that power to say, I trust. And that was the piece. It's about the two-way trust. Often we talk about the horse has to trust you, that mustang has to trust you to put the halter on and to touch him. We have to trust them to pick up those feet. We have to trust them to lead them out. And I have to definitely trust them as I age more and more. I'm not in my 20s anymore. And in the 20s, you just go off and you gallop. Now I'm looking at it going, I'd be horrified to gallop anymore. I'm not interested in galloping. I like my walk, trot, little canter, great. And it would be that piece to say, yeah, I've got to trust you. And this trust goes two-way, and I've got to trust you in different circumstances. It might be in the round pen or the arena, it might be on the trail, and you need mileage. So how are we going to do this together? There's times to get off, there's times to stay on. And I started to challenge even the myths, to go, what is the myth? Well, the myth was, look at the horse's ass. No, I'm going to study them, and they're not. The myth is, I'm just going to bring a dog in for a minute, where it would be, don't look the dog in the eye when he high and he's jumping up and down, and ignore him. And it's the worst thing you could do. It's the worst thing you could do. That pup is so excited to see you. It's his primary thing in the day. He's looked forward to it. It's here. And then some person says, act like a leader and ignore him till he's calmed down. Wow. How do you best take the joy and the spark out of a dog? You ignore him and you age him before his time. And you don't look him in the eye. That's so wrong. They're waiting for the eye contact. So I look at all of these dog trainers, horse trainers that would say, do not look in the eye. Yeah. What did you do? You parroted what somebody else told you. Mm-hmm. Good for you. You followed along like a good sheep. And so there is a time to ask questions, and there's a time to challenge it. There's a time to contemplate and go inside to go, is this true and is this real? Because when I watch them, that's not the truth, which also means it's not the truth not to look a human in the eye. And then you get different circumstances. I haven't found any human have a problem looking me in the eye when I'm lecturing. I will have all eyes on me, 100%, pretty much. But you ask them something about them, oh, head goes down. And you can guarantee in my class, if I go, I'm looking for a volunteer, heads go down, eyes, suddenly they're really busy. And they know in the classes, if you get eye contact, I'm going to read your eyes. And I'm going to read behind your eyes. You can hide behind your smile, but you can't hide behind your eyes. So you could see all my students go, oh, she's not going to get to my eyes. Or they go, yes, ma'am. Eyes are wide open. Yeah, I've got this, ma'am. I'm fine. And you see the intention behind it, and you've got to feel the energy. And this is where it starts to get deeper, to go, yeah, you've learned to look me in the eye. That's what you've done. So now I have to feel your energy. And that would be no different than the horses. You've learned to stand still and glaze and be compliant. But compliance is dangerous because you have tuned us out. You've created a coping mechanism, and you're a flight animal. And if there's no flight available, you have to go into fight. You're already freezing. That's class has learned helplessness. You've gone. But what happens when you come back into your body? Nothing pretty. So eyes are everything.
The eyes are the window to the soul, right?
Yeah. Just throw me a bone and I'll talk about any topic. That's me. Sometimes easy to interview, but I've got to pause to go. There would be some thoughtfulness to say when and how are people looking at their horses in the eye, you know, and what's the intention behind it? Like if you're in the round pen and you're staring with an intent to be predator prey and to chase, of course that's too much pressure. But if we're connecting with the eye in a round pen at liberty to read what that individual's thinking and to make sure you're paying attention so I can do maneuvers, you can't even compare. It's lemon and oranges or lemons and apple, whatever that saying is. Totally different reasons why we're looking at our eyes, and therefore your paradigm would be incorrect, which now comes full circles to watching wild horses, which is if all you see is dominance there, then all you'll see is dominance. You won't see the 9 passive leaders because the eyes in which you're looking through aren't necessarily telling you the right thing. If you don't see that a horse invites another one in by showing their rib cage, you'll never see it. So you do need a translator on horse behavior to say that's an invite. Their head drop. Why are people taught to lead head dropping the whole bloody time and not realizing, yeah, that could be submission and that could be giving up leadership. But again, are you taking that and stealing that from them? Are you realizing why their head has to be up to look at the distance? Why would you ask for a head drop there if you don't know why you're not asking? This isn't about submission, and partnership is not based on submission. And you can ask any married couple that, right? Husband, wife team. Nobody wants to be submissive. Nobody wants to be quiet, and nobody wants to be dulled down. It's about bringing that voice out so that we feel we are heard and we know we are seen.
Yes, absolutely.
You're speaking to something that has just been like rattling around in my head. And I've been calling it like horse owners are programmed to outsource their decision making about everything. Just listen to the farrier, just listen to the vet. You ask your trainer what your horse is thinking. Your trainer sees your horse for 30 days or one lesson. You're with your horse every single day. You know what your horse is thinking in here.
Yeah.
You've been just trained not to ask that.
Or
And
to
Yeah,
test it.
yeah, and there's the balance, Laura, right? Because um they're respectful by respecting a trainer and their trainer's knowledge. And there's that piece to say there's a time to observe. We all have to observe to learn. And at the same time, be an active participant in your horse's life. Exactly that. To go, your voice counts, because this is a circle. Like you're describing the circle of the trainer, the horse, and the legal guardian. Everybody has a voice and everybody's perspective counts. And there's a time to educate the guardian where they might say, as I walk in the door, and I'll keep to biting, they might come in and go, oh, he's terrible, he's a biter. And out of the eyes of this guardian, they might think that's a 7 on a 1 to 10. That's a 7 on biting. And I could look at it and go, well, actually, it's not even on a scale. Because what he's really doing is he's just asking for the treat and he's not really biting. So it's a 0. And if you stop hand feeding, he'll stop nibbling, right? So I always find like never exclude them, always bring them in, always remember they're with them 24/7. They might be the heart horse and or otherwise. And then you look at it to go, this is where education's needed, but never to forfeit it, like you said. There's too much information out. And this is the other thing. Dr. Google has gone for and against us as well as Alexa and Siri. So at the end of one voice, there's an answer. At the end of a keystroke, there's an answer. And so before, it might have been that we'd research even more to say there's X amount of decision making, so I'll collate the information and come to my own solution. That happens today too. And at the same time, people believe what they get on the end of the internet, and they might come back with false information or not enough experience information that would lead them up the wrong path. And therefore they get overwhelmed. That's where I was heading with it, to go, they get overwhelmed with it, to go, I'll just hand it over.
let's pause for a moment. Have you ever looked at your horse and wondered if they're thriving in your care? Is there more you can do to give them the best life possible? Most ranches and boarding facilities are set up for convenience, not horse health, but there's tons you can do to fix your horse's situation if you're willing to get creative. Join Evidence-Based Horsekeeping, my Facebook group where members learn how to improve the mental and physical well-being of their horses. The link is in the show notes.
I think that, I love what Laura is observing, because there are so many who want that fix. They want the answer. Just tell me what to do so that I can do it and move beyond, that kind of quick fix thing.
Yeah.
But I think in all of us as professionals, the biggest responsibility we have, well, first responsibility in my eyes is to the horse. I'm in it for the horse and to make the best possible life that I can help that horse have living with humans. But I also realize that the best I can do for both of them is to empower that client to learn to think and feel on their own and know that I am always there to help translate or help point out or help get over the stuckness. But for me to be able to empower them with lots of questions and lots of observation and lots of what did you see? Like they'll say, why did he do that? And I'm like, well, I don't know. Why do you think he did that? So that we get them thinking that way instead of just like you said, Dr.
Yeah.
Google. You know, we have created a society these days of that quick fix. Don't have to think about it, just go out and grab it. So I think it's really important for us to be focusing on how can we empower them through teaching the skills that we have to them.
Right.
You know, like people say, well, will you take my horse for 30 or 60 or 90 days? Will you take my horse into training? And I'm like, no, I won't. I'm happy to work with you and your horse, but you have to be willing. Are you willing to put yourself out there and be uncomfortable, uncertain, confused, and open to learn? Because if you are not willing to do any of that, how can you ask your horse or expect your horse to do any of that? It's not fair. So I love our dialogue, you guys. This is great.
And I'm totally on your page in every way when I hear you say that of coming away from blame. It with this quick fix society comes blame very quickly,
Yes.
and also less connectedness of if you see text, and I don't know how you guys text, but often it would be just the statement, and I make a huge effort to go hello such and such and goodbye, but it's the new norm just to write what you need, and the same on emails, just what you need. There's no common courtesy. And so for me that's a reflection of how people are around everything, to say, are you just getting it done, like the bridle's going on, saddle's going on, and we go out. And that's the what's in it for me piece, right? What's in it for me? Are we riding because we're proud of we can keep balance and influence the horse and we see nature, or are we riding to truly connect? Because if we're truly connecting, would we not want to know the personality of these individuals? Would we not want to know what's in it for them? And so when we go riding on my property, we did it just recently, and it would be that moment to educate somebody, to state, hold on a minute, she's been trained to stop, and we trained whoa instead of go. And it's a huge deal. Like I said, came up with it years ago because of that flight piece. And I think it was animal communication where a horse came back to say his 70-year-old person, she said, why did I get bucked up, or why did he buck me off, you know? And you couldn't make this shit up if you tried, because this horse was in California and he came back with, she's so imbalanced. I looked for a good spot for her to fall, and I don't normally do the eye look because I get imagery in movies, so it's more of an explanation, but this makes it a little bit more flowery. And he came back with, she was toppling, so I ejected her and helped her off. And I went, wow. You know, if you'd asked me on bucking, I could have told you it's teeth, bridle, saddle, hooves, this, nutrition, turn out. I couldn't have told you he noticed you were unbalanced, so he helped you off. And I think I laughed and I gave it, not to my client, but I probably would have chuckled and went, you couldn't figure out how to just shimmy on over and catch her a bit more. But his whole piece was, she shouldn't be here. She's clearly not capable, and let me help her to be with her feet on the ground. So I look at that and feel like when we ride, there's that obligation even to say, when we partner, what does this horse know? We don't have to go through the whole line of what the trainers have, but it might be, well, she stops. She's been trained to stop when she's frightened, and she's been trained to face up. So when 6 horses are running at you because they're brand new, we've trained them to stop and look, so that you cannot fear that which you're standing there and there's a fence in between, you can figure it out. So don't kick her on at that moment in time. And the same might go for, we've got one that loves to see sceneries and flowers. And I'll tell my students, don't kick her on when she's looking at the flowers. That's what she loves to do on a ride. Give her that moment. She needs you to get her out of her paddock. And that's what partnership means. And you need her because you'd like to go hiking without actually doing that kind of movement. And you appreciate this. So the appreciation comes together. And I love that. There's so many layers to this, right? From liberty work to gentling wild horses to riding, to say, yeah, it's inside. That intuition is inside. And how do we remind ourselves to listen to it, even recognize it? What does intuition look like for each individual being. Like, do you feel it in your throat, your heart, your chest? Do you get your gut churning? What's your intuition tell you? Do you smile and your heart palpates? Does your heart sink? And it's learning all those things about yourself to realize that's either the horse or your spirits or you telling you something that we need to pay attention to. And if we did that all the time, we'd be a lot safer and happier, I think.
Oh gosh, just imagine how your entire life would
Yeah.
change. I mean,
Yeah.
we know,
Yeah.
but to be able to help others have that experience with the horse, and then they automatically start taking it out into every area of their lives.
Right.
Just awakening that intuition, I so wish that we as a species could understand the value of teaching our young, toddlers from the get-go, but toddler to kindergarten, emotional understanding and regulation and honoring and the intuitive piece.
Yeah.
If we could just start teaching our young that, like the horses do, we would see a massive change in humanity in such a very short time. I think one cycle of education, academic education is what I'm referring to, like kindergarten to 12th grade. If we could incorporate that through that curriculum time,
Be amazing.
it would be amazing.
Yeah.
It would be amazing. We are getting close to our hour, and Laura and I both just want to know about your new project.
Yeah.
About your Trainers Without Borders. I have to tell you, Anna, like I said in our email or text or whatever it was, I've been watching you for a very long time. Pretty much since I challenged myself to become the best I could ever be with horses. I found you online. And you and I do so many similar things that I've followed you. And I can't even believe I'm beginning to say this, but I believe in being real. And I have at times had a little bit of like, she's what? No way. I've had a lot of the ego feelings about you, but I always am drawn back to you because you are doing everything that means so much internally to me. So it was really a big step for me to reach out in my own personal growth.
Wow.
And say, Anna, will you be on our podcast? And I'm really glad that I did. So there's a little bit of vulnerability there that I wasn't expecting to share, but okay. But when I read your Trainers Without Borders, I got chills and my heart just like, and then I read, that was just the reading, the intro to it. And then I read what you were doing. And holy moly, tell us about it.
I've probably got a faster, bigger, stronger vision of it than where it is right now, is a good way to say it. And it's been a big hope of mine for decades. And then here's the thing, Cindy, I have to let me step back. Since about 2000, maybe 3 or 5, every business decision I've made has been spiritual. So I've checked in spiritually. And with that, people might look at it and go with the head. So for example, to be part of writing a book with a group, a lawyer, friends, others said, do not do it. And everything came back a big no. And I checked in and it was a yes. And I did it. And it was an investment. There was this fad of people investing into books and writing pieces, and it's probably still going on. No, I didn't make my money per se, so maybe we made money back. It wasn't about that. I got 2 to 3 really profound emails from the story I wrote that it saved some lives. And I got one person come out and study with me from a third world country, and she could take it back there. So the spiritual, yes, I got, did not end up being profitable in the money sense, but it did in the outreach sense and the impact on individuals, probably more than I'll know. So that was a huge change in my life, to check in all the way. And then I've been asked to go to places like China, Morocco, and I went to Singapore too, and went to Mexico to help a family raise funds for somebody with cancer, a boy with cancer. So I went there pro bono. And so a lot of these became pro bono, meaning they paid expenses. And there's also the contrast, like a scale of intuitive with my background in law enforcement. Like law enforcement, you'd want to know where you are at any one point and not have your back to the door and look at everybody. So I've got that. And then spiritually, I go, you're in the right place at the right time, and you're safe because it is spiritually. But there is this balance, and it's a constant thing that I'm constantly looking at, to even with my horse husbandry and all of my care, to say, if they've got a spiritual manifestation of a disease, then have they been fully healed, or do I still have to manage them? And I'm not going to have them die on my watch, because I'm going to be so spiritual that I've been remiss, right? And yet if I fully believe in their path and spirit, then would I not believe that they're fully healed and they're done? So it's a little bit of a scale and an exploration with due diligence, experience, and spirituality. And I question myself to go, full faith, would it not mean we're okay? However, Excalibur just got laminitis again for the fall grass in North Carolina, and I hadn't upped it much. I'd upped his time a little bit by half an hour. That half an hour is laminitis. Now, was that a spiritual reckoning anyway? Like, is that him having taken on the hurricane and COVID and the move and all the stuff we've taken on here, and he hasn't released it? Has he taken it on? Is he reflecting me to go, he hasn't taken it on and I haven't released my shit? Is that the laminitis? Because it's about not going with the flow. So people can put it into perspective, that they understand what I'm speaking about, is to go, is it his? Is it mine? Is it ours? Is it spiritual? Is it this? Lots of questions for that very busy mind. This all ties back in, because my hope had been, when I came here and I started Reach Out to Horses, to take a team with me abroad. I never wanted to go to these places on my own. I have trailblazed, and there's statements I do not wish to say any longer, like it's lonely on the top. I don't want to say it. You'll see tears in my eyes you'll see the tears because I believe it's true, and yet spiritually that's not the thing to say. It's been painful to trailblaze. It's been lonely to trailblaze. It's broken me. And I wish it hadn't. I wish I was better than that. I wish I was stronger and better, that I'd go, wow, what a challenge and what a privilege. So every now and then I'll go, it's a privilege, Anna. It's a privilege to go. You don't need to cry, it's a privilege. And I'll be in these places out in the boonies with shit up to my knees going, it's a privilege. It's great you're trailblazing. While so many are overtaking. So many will get the TV gigs and the book gigs. And I was dropped only last week with filming, when they said we cannot buy into animal communication after they filmed. Dropped it. I've been dropped by multiple TV stations for being an animal communicator, multiple. And so there's a sacrifice speaking your truth. And again, I don't want to look at it as a sacrifice. So traveling the world has been a privilege, and it's been tiring and difficult and lots of conflict and challenges and setting up for failure. And I think God's got my back, because so far the big injuries have not come, even though I've been in 10-foot concrete round pens with wild horses. And I've been in situations where horses have put 7 people into hospital and they go, you're the next to work with them. And you look at it to go, I've got this, I've got this. I believe it's a universal language. I believe in energy. And I believe these horses can see the good, that I'm not going to challenge them, but I am going to ask them questions for their own good. So this Trainers Without Borders has so much thought in it to say, I know we can make a difference here in the United States, because the poverty, the abuse is pretty much similar, equal to other countries, first, second, or third. So we have it here, and it's an amazing thing to say, I can lead a troop of people to come in and infiltrate, we say. And on a good day, I'll speak fairly well. On a bad day, it would be Gordon Ramsay. And I'm the Gordon Ramsay of horsemanship. And it will be that the open doors and the fucking floodgates are there, and we are going to take over and we're going to make change. And then we leave. And the impact has been profound. I know the impact's been profound with me. So I imagine, and that is imagine, I imagine how much I can do with the team to say, look, any Reach Out to Horses graduate that could be the farrier or the equine coach, the psychologist, the business person, the nutritionist, we have a lot of fingers in our pies. And I do teach nutrition and the Beamer and bring in essential oils and all of that. We've got that. And at the same time, they have so many accolades, these individuals, to be able to come in and do saddle fitting and change behavior and do animal communication, the whole caboodle. And for me, that is the Trainers Without Borders, to be able to go to first, second, third world countries and make a big difference in training. Now, we need to understand it, because like China, Mongolia, the only way you'd impact is through the pocketbook. Only way. If you come in to go, do you know they're sentient beings and he really wants this? It goes down like a lead balloon. So you have to truly look at it to go, okay, you're feeding your horse up here like a giraffe. Do you understand that his neck is going to hurt and you're not going to win your barrel racing? You go straight to it and they go, oh, okay, feeding down here now. You know, so you have to touch the pocketbook and the ego. And that's the balance, to realize there's a time to do animal communication. There's a time to thread it in through the physical being of the horse and leave it a little bit on the peripheral to find the time to get the evidence base behind it. And there's a time to come in with a team. So the dream is big. The dream is big. I have done my best to keep holding it in my heart. And I do thank Jane Goodall for some of her last statements, where she said, you've got to keep the hope in the heart. I lost my hope last year, and with it, I lost all of my dreams, and so on and so forth. And so bringing that hope back for everybody, and that would be full circle on the Mustang thing. I've lost the hope on the Mustangs. I always knew they were managing them into extinction. And when that reality hits you, it brought me to my knees. So I've had to regather the hope to go, all right, I can help that one person with their Mustang. I can do a clinic with the Mustangs, and I can find other ways. I had hoped we as a group had been entrusted in saving them. And I'm not seeing us big enough, and the impact of the negative has been bigger. And at the same time, that statement with Jane to keep the hope in the heart, because it goes for the apes and the wildlife and all of these areas. It's not just the horses. we need to hold on to, because there are the horses that are still out there. There are the horses that are still yet to be round up. There are the ones in the holding pens where the big question marks hang over their heads, and we owe it to them to hold that hope. And that comes not as one single person. And it was always about creating this pool to be way bigger and find alignment with others. So that's the Trainers Without Borders. We have done 2 within the country. We help with the Nakodas and foundational breeders that is going to be dispersed. So we helped there. We came in there with stallions and mares and yearlings. That was fantastic. And it's kind of like a trial, Cindy, meaning gathering my troops and keeping them fresh and alive and understanding and evolved. And that's the key. When you're a truth seeker, you're looking for the evolution. I haven't stood still. So bless my students, they'll come in and go, well, don't we do it this way? And I go, no, why would you think that? Feel the pause and feel the intention. What's this horse intending? Stop reacting. And then they go, well, we haven't done that before. Well, yes, we have. We've done it for a year to cotton on. So it's really neat to find out that they tell me I'm evolving, because I don't remember it. And the change, what I did yesterday, I feel like I'm doing today, but the truth is, no, I'm still anchoring into today, the present time, with new things. And evolution has come from animal communication.
You know, the one thing that horses have taught me that I'm hearing you say very clearly is that we never get there. You know, we go into horses thinking we're going to get there. But we never get there because they're always taking us higher and different. And your students are showing you that natural growth.
Yeah.
That in order to keep being the best we can be, we have to be always willing to be the student.
Yeah.
I love that your program, your Roth program, Reach Out to Horses, for those who don't know, is Anna's program that she teaches for horsemanship and so much more. I love that you are keeping your students together and growing, that you are truly creating a tribe. Unlike some of the other certification programs out there, you're certified and you have to pay your franchise fee every year and stuff like that. But you're truly bringing them together and keeping them going through your dream.
Yeah, that's very true.
Which is beautiful, because that keeps you all growing and keeps the program growing. The other thing that I just want to say to you is that you've mentioned a few times in this conversation that you have broken down, that it broke you, that you had lost hope. I currently am going through a huge life transition. And one thing that my guides keep telling me is that sometimes you have to break down before you break through. And I'm seeing that in you as you're talking about your timeline, is that, yeah, you had to have some breakdown in order to break that glass ceiling, in order to break through to the next grandest version of Anna Twinney. So it's been an honor to have you on our podcast and to get to know you after all these years of watching you on the outside of the round pen.
Right.
It's kind of nice to sit and get to know you. So thank you very much. Laura, is there anything you want to?
Yeah, if our listeners are feeling super inspired about Trainers Without Borders right now, how can they support the mission?
That's wonderful. There's a few ways to move forward, actually. We have a nonprofit and it's called equinewarrior.org. So if people are at home and they can't come out anywhere, equinewarrior.org always needs it, because we also have horses that are here as equine warriors on the property, and then we're going to have more coming. So that's one way to support it. And another way is to look at if they want to be a part of it, to support it. And then they have the Road of Reach Out to Horses that they can go. And there's a foundation course and there's trainers courses. And it takes them all the way through that they'll be qualified as a Roth trainer. And it's only the qualified Roth trainers that at the moment would come in on board. And why? Why? Because they'll understand the language, they'll have the same philosophers, they'll believe in animal communication, etc. And that can be really helpful when we go abroad to bring it all into alignment. So yeah, a couple of ways they can join me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today. This was a fantastic
Thank you.
conversation.
Thank you, Anna. It was wonderful.
It's lovely to be here.
So if you have any questions about the topics covered in this episode, send us a message on our Facebook page, Holistic Horsemanship and Husbandry, and we will answer your question in a post on our page. You will be anonymous. We'll just take the question and provide our input, and we want to do it on the post so that we can all learn and grow together, because nobody knows everything. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. We want to remind you that we'll be here every second and fourth Tuesday of the month, following the golden rule. Have a plan, but always be willing to be flexible. Don't forget to connect with us using the links in the show notes below.
If you learned something new today, had an aha, or walked away with a valuable nugget, you can say thanks by leaving us a 5-star review on whatever platform you're listening on.